Hey everybody, how y'all doing? So I'm here in the rehearsal room and there's another band about to start rehearsing, so I'm gonna try and make this before it gets too loud in here. Hope y'all are doing well. So I was at at an Ableton Link Jam yesterday, and I've been to a few of these. And I love the concept. I love the idea. And for those of you that don't know, a link jam is when you get a bunch of people running Ableton and everybody's linked together. And the idea is that you're jamming like a band or like a bunch of people getting together and jamming, right? So it's a new thing in this sort of electronic music community to be able to do this. And so I think with all new things, there's some growing pains. And so this video, I want to basically just kind of give what I think are some really important tips for people that are going to be doing an Ableton Link Jam. So I wrote them down. Let me find it. So number one, I say have a template prepared with the basic components of a song. And so what that means is when you come into a jam, you don't know what instruments you're going to be playing. You don't know if you're going to be bass or drums or what did I write here? So I wrote basic components of a song off the top of my head. I said drums, percussion, bass, melody, chords, pads, and effects. Now I run a big Ableton template where I have all of those things and more set up as groups, and so I can really quickly and easily navigate to them on my push and get to that area and just like jam in that area. So I think that's a really important thing to have something like that set up, because if you get into a jam and there's three other people all trying to play drums, you're not going to be able to play drums. You're going to need to play bass or pads, or you want to find the space. And all of these things that I kind of really talk about that, like finding your space within the jam where you can do it. So these are sort of preemptive things you can do to make it easier for you when you get into a jam. So have a template created with these basic components, with synths that you like, with drum racks that you like, so you can play any of those specific pieces of a band for a jam. Number two, this is a preemptive thing that you can do before you enter a jam. You need to be able to change keys to be able to fit the key of the jam, right? Like if you're going to be playing melodies, you need to be able to know we're in B flat minor and play in B flat minor. So don't be intimidated if you don't know music theory. On an Ableton push, you can push one button and then navigate to B flat minor and then just play all the colored pads, so you don't necessarily have to even know what B flat minor is. But you do need to be able to play in the same key that everyone else is playing. And you don't know what key that's going to be, right? So you need to be prepared with your equipment to be able to switch keys and play in whatever key the jam is in. Now, I'm not going to get into theoretical stuff of, those of you that know music theory and are able to switch keys and modulate and play relative minors and all that, great. But this is aimed for people that maybe haven't thought about that. Like, you need to be able to play in any key. Excuse me. In an ideal jam, in my opinion, at the beginning of the jam, in fact, I didn't write this down, but I think this is an important thing. There needs to be a leader. There needs to be someone at the beginning of the jam that even essentially assigns parts. Maybe not saying like you play bass, you play drums, but like who wants to play bass? And that person says, I'll play bass. And then so that person is that instrument. Who wants to play drums? That person is drums. So, this does actually kind of segue into that, you are an instrument. When you're in a jam, it's not the same as producing a song. It's not the same as trying to play lots of different instruments at once. Pick your one instrument and be that. If you're the drummer, be the drummer. If you're the bass player, be the bass player. and do all the things. That's not to say that you might, in a jam, you might like get the bass groove going and everything's great and everything's jamming, and there's also this like, you know, gap in pads and there's no pads, and so you decide to put the pads in. That's fine, but don't feel like you need to do everything. Just pick one instrument. It's better. It's better to just pick one instrument as opposed to trying to do a bunch of stuff or jumping all around. So that really gets to the idea of like, I think there should really be a leader that is sort of determining at the beginning who plays, as opposed to what often happens is I think people get connected on Link, and as soon as they're connected, they just start playing, and then, you know, that's it. So, so that was actually my number 3 was assume that you will only be a single instrument in the jam, and check in with everyone at the beginning of the jam to establish what instrument you will be playing. I think that's really important. Number 4, I have these are now when you're in the jam, things you should be doing during the jam. Number 1 of this section, listen. What does that mean? So what that means is before you start playing, listen to see what isn't there, right? If everyone is high in the higher frequencies, go low. If everyone's low, go high. If everyone's in the middle, find something high or low. So, like, find a space for yourself. Find your little pocket, your little area. It always surprises me when I'm playing with somebody and I go high and they go high, because, you know, I get it theoretically, like, okay, we can both go high and play around together and make something magical, but, you know, 9 times out of 10, somebody's just stepping on the other person's toes, right? So I think it's the safest bet, especially as you're like getting to know the people you're playing with. Someone goes high, go low. Someone goes low, go high. Find a niche, find your pocket. That can be, I think that is also very big in drums. You know, I love playing percussive stuff, so like very often it seems like I get into a Link Jam and somebody's already playing a drum beat. So I will try and find little percussive elements that are a different timbre from what's going on and try and find little pockets. Percussion is a really nice thing to do that because they're short, you know, transient. You don't have a long sustain or a long release, so you can kind of like get that little sound right in there. And maybe that's all I'll do is just one little, you know, woodblock sound every couple of bars. But there's my little pocket, you know, and as you establish a pocket, if everyone's listening, then maybe that pocket will open up a little more. So hopefully that makes some sense. Listen. If people go high, go low. If they go low, go high. Number 5, blend. Don't be the loudest person in the room. So if you, again, this seems to be like, it's funny because a lot of times beginners will either be like way too quiet or they'll be way too loud. You know, and I think they're quiet because they're shy, and I don't know why they're too loud, but maybe because they're not listening. But, you know, you want to blend, right? You're a band, and so everyone should try and be around the same volume-ish. If you're around the same volume, that's going to more easily show you if everybody's in the mid-range, like show you need to spread out, right? So maybe that's why people get loud, is because everyone's in the mid-range. So the only way you can hear yourself is by getting louder and louder and louder. And then it's just, you know, then it just doesn't work. So try and, as you're playing, try and keep yourself the same volume as everyone else and find your pocket within that, right? Number 6, so I wrote be quantized. Now, this might be controversial, but so basically this kind of came from I was in a jam and there was a guy playing sort of, he was playing the drums, right? He was playing a drum beat, and it was this sort of hip hop beat, but it was like really loose. You know, I mean, it was so loose, I couldn't even really tell if it was in 4/4 or what. Like, it seemed like it never really kind of like looped is like the loop was like 4 beats and like an eighth or something, and always kind of like shifting. So I totally respect that. I love odd time signature stuff and I love loose stuff. But the thing you have to know is if you're going to introduce that, everybody needs to follow you and that loose groove that you've established, right? And that's difficult to do. That could be, especially if people are playing grid-based stuff on their pad, it's not going to be the same groove that you're doing. So it's going to clash. It's just immediately going to clash. So my suggestion is I really, again, I love loose stuff. I'm not trying to like tell anybody like how to sound, but I like the sort of recommendation, the idea of like keeping the kick and the snare, keep those quantized, keep those on the grid. And then all the percussive other stuff, if you want to get super loose with it, that stuff you can get loose and it's a little more forgiving, But like if your kick is always like a little off, unless everybody's going to try and like go there with you, it's going to turn into just mush really fast. So maybe, be aware who you're playing with, right? If you're all trying to do that, then great, go for it. But if not, it's probably a bad idea. Last, the last one I said, don't just put on a drum loop. So, for some reason, I've seen this a bunch in loop jams. Like the loop jam starts, people get locked on, and then someone just turns on a drum loop. And then it's like, okay, so like, are you the drummer? And so like, I'll step away from that role because I'm often in that role because I like it, like everybody, right? But, you put on some 1 bar, 4-beat drum loop, and like you're the drummer, but that's all you're gonna do with it, and then you're gonna start fiddling around with other shit. Like that's gonna get real boring real fast. If you're gonna be the drummer, be the drummer. Maybe start with a drum loop, but man, like, or woman, I'm sorry, like, be a drummer, right? Like find fills, find ways, subtle, maybe not even fills, just subtle ways of varying things over time so that there is interest there. Don't just put on some cheesy drum loop and let it play and move on. And then you've locked up that position from everyone else. So anyway, those are my tips, the sort of TLDR. Have a template with all the different components of a song ready to go. Number 2, be able to change keys so that you can match the key of the jam. Number 3, assume that you are only a single instrument. Don't try and be more than one instrument. Number 4, listen. Find the space within the jam that's already happening. Before you even play, find that space that you can be in and try and just be in that space. Number 5, blend. Don't be too loud. Don't be too quiet. Find the blend so, again, you can find those pockets that make sense as opposed to just trying to play louder than everyone else. Number 6 is be quantized. That's the thing of like, at least keep the kick and the snare on the grid. Help us all out so that we can all jam together. And number 7, don't just put on a drum loop and walk away. Let's keep this interesting. All right, love you guys. Bye.